Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be going over to my Milwaukee Pole Saw attachment for my weed trimmer head that I have. I have multiple lawn care tools made by Milwaukee, all battery powered. In my previous video I gave the review of overall. This is the pole saw. At that point in time I had not used it. I was planning on using it that day and I did. I want to give my feedback on this and do a little bit more in depth on it. Give you battery runtime, and this has an oil tank, so I'll make sure to let you know how much oil you plan on going through. So stay tuned. If you haven't subscribed, please do. If you're a returning viewer, much appreciated. Hope to put out more videos like this in the future. But let's not waste no more time. Let's get started. So we're gonna go ahead and pull it back apart. I just want to check out inside, make sure everything looks good. I'm getting ready to hang it on the wall for the winter because I did everything that I needed to do with it. But I want to check out, make sure there's no weird things going on with it since it was the first time I used it. Looks like the oiling system is working. As you can see, there's oil here, oil all up through here. That's why all this sawdust gets stuck in there. And I'd like to get that all cleaned out before the end of the year. I actually took an air blower from my air compressor, hooked it up to my air hose, and I actually blew out a lot of what was in here outside. So that leaves me with a little bit of mess. But once you get this off, you can see right here, I was telling you there was a dial that the bar goes in, that adjustment right here runs. Right here is that dial right here. So whenever you turn this, you'll be able to see that dial, see as soon as I let go. So I'll keep pressure on the back side of the bar just so you can see. As I turn it, it starts moving back. There is play in it, so that chain might even come loose in that play. The bar moving around, it can happen. So now whenever you twist on it, oh, it gets tight, 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 tight. It's gonna come loose because the cover isn't on it. That's what holds it, that hex head from right here. So in order to take that off, what you're gonna do is just hold it down here, and you'll go back the other way with it. If I'm gonna take the chain all the way off, wipe all this down real good. I'm gonna leave a little oil in there just to keep it from rusting over the winter. Shouldn't have much problems. That's the end of the dial. That's as far back as it goes. So now that that's all the way back, you can see we got a lot of play in the chain now. Best way to get this off here, lift up on the bar, flip back, the chain comes right off with the bar. As you can see, stuff gets built up here. From above your head there. Wipe this all out. It's always good to open this stuff up right after the first time you use it, just to make sure everything's working, make sure everything's oiling, make sure there's no excessive wear on the sprocket for some reason. Maybe there's a problem in one of the links where it runs. Inspect the bar, just make sure there's nothing completely obvious going wrong with it. So I just laid down a towel here. This is just an old terry towel. Bath towels, most guys use them. Shirts, I don't care. I just like laying it down so I don't get the stuff everywhere. Whenever I'm all done, I can throw it in the washer or just throw it away if I want. I'll probably just dust it off, fold it back up, put it back in the drawer because I have an actual towel dedicated for this on my workbench, just to try to keep stuff from making a complete mess. So just wipe all this out real good. Now, as you can probably see right here, I said this dial runs on a piece of threaded rod. That threaded rod runs right through here. So let's go ahead and give that a twist and you can see this move. And there's a lot of adjustment here. It'll run completely from here to here. So you're talking probably an inch and a half. You can stretch that out. This might accept a bigger bar or a bigger chain. I'm not positive. I don't think so. I don't think it'll move that far, but it'll take a lot of adjustment. They're normally pretty close whenever the chain's new, and as the chain stretches with time, it'll move. You know, it's probably somewhere here to start tight, and it'll probably be here by the time the chain's wore out. Just want to get the most of the bulk out of here, leave a little bit. Always good to have a little oil on the metal. But overall on this pole saw, as I wipe this off, this thing was fantastic. I would say usage, let me show you here, the oil tank. You can't really see it because I got you upright. It's probably right about here, if you can see that. So it's probably about half full right now. I refilled it once. It was all the way at full here. As you can see, this is your max mark, this is your minimum mark. It was full to the max mark, and I had it run down just below the minimum. I refilled it back up and checked my battery at that point. I still had 4 bars on my high output 8.0 battery. So that's impressive runtime. You might go through probably, I'd say 3 tanks, maybe even 3.5 or 4 to a battery. I almost want to believe this might be better than a gasoline one. I think it might be more efficient somehow with how it's oiled, or maybe it's because the bar's smaller than those. But absolutely fantastic. No shortage of power at all. So this is the sprocket that the chain rides in right here. There's just a C-clip on top of the washer that holds it in place so it can move around. You can take that off, just get yourself a little flathead, and this will pull right off. Washer will pull off and you can pull the sprocket off. So it looks like the oiling system's working good. I never felt like this thing gave me any troubles. I did start to notice that chain getting a little bit sloppy at the end of my work. I went around, I'm trying to think of the comparison I can make for the amount of limbs I took down. I got a garden cart, and I'll just put it to you that way. I've got a garden cart, normal standard you hook behind your lawnmower. I had it behind mine. It's probably a little shorter in size, and I had it absolutely heaped all the way up to me sitting on a lawnmower, was heaped up to my head. Stuff was dragging twice the length off the back of the cart. Limbs wise, I made 14 trips up to the wood pile, or the brush pile that I was burning at the time. Most of that was from this. I was doing most of the work with this, other than I cut down a few limbs. I did just grab the chainsaw, but very minimum amount. Most of it I did with this right here. So this is very impressive to me. So I would definitely recommend it. Now, and we'll wipe this out here while we're talking. This is plastic. I want to get as much of that oil off as possible. But something I do want to mention, one con I believe, it's actually not a con, it's just going to cost you more. I believe Milwaukee needs to sell this with they sell a 3-foot extension that you can put in between the actual trimmer head and motor shaft and this. It'll get you 3 more feet. That was really the only thing I could find that I wanted more. I wanted more length because I think I'd have cut more branches, trimmed down more things. Definitely want to reach further for sure. You know, 3 more feet will really get you somewhere. You start talking about taking down actual big limbs, you start reaching up far enough, and you can get up on a ladder or something. So that's my only complaint about it, is the fact they don't sell it with that extension. I do believe that extension should be sold with it. I believe that's the reason why it exists. But yeah, always, here's something to look at. Always look inside your bar, look for good wear. See the paint starting to go, but that's fine. Eventually you'll actually wear the paint completely off the front. Make sure this is a sprocket that spins. It's called needle bearings. We'll make sure it spins, make sure there's no odd feeling to it. It should be very smooth. Check inside, always look inside, make sure there's nothing in there. Clean this out if it fills up with junk. I just get a little, here, I'll grab a little screwdriver here and show you. There's a little bit in there. It's a pretty thin groove, so I don't know if I got a flathead, thin enough flathead to reach deep in these here. Just reach down in there, get as much as you can, see a little bit in there. They can pack full, especially when you get back here where the chain's not riding as hard. It'll start building up. Not that it makes a huge difference. It's just a maintenance thing when I'm doing it. You don't know, or whenever you're changing the chain, it's always good to look down in here, make sure everything's all good. Try this little screwdriver here, see if it'll reach deeper. Yeah, it's not gonna reach any deeper. Just clean that stuff out. That'll keep it, if you can keep it cleaned out up here, it keeps it from maybe getting down on them needle bearings. Flip it over, same thing. Reach as far as you can and just drag back. I think this one was actually reaching a little deeper here. Not much so, but yeah, I mean, the bar's good and oiled. I don't see any burn marks on the chain. Chain's dirty, of course, but that's not a big deal. So, no real good way to explain how to put this chain back on. I'm just gonna give it a little dab here. There's a bunch of bunch of sawdust on it here. So, but that tells you the oiling system's working, so that's good. So direction, once again, shows you the direction of the chain and how it needs to be. So this is a picture right here with an arrow going that way. So that picture is this link. So if you can see that, hopefully you can see that there. This picture looks like this right here. Short side, long side. This is actually your blade right here. When I was talking about sharpening them, they got to be on an angle. They're actually sharpened. I can't remember the angle. It depends on the blade, the manufacturer. I think there's used to be 2 or 3. I think it's pretty standard now. But you want this going this direction. Otherwise, you'll be you're cutting into it here. This is your blade, this is your rake. If you flip it over and you got it running the other way, yeah, right here. So you're running it backwards, you're hitting your wood with a blunt edge. You're not doing anything. It's like trying to cut down a tree with a butter knife. You're not gonna do it. You might be able to. It'll be a long, long, long time. You'll burn up and break the butter knife. You'll go through 100 of them. Be the same with chains. You'll go through a lot of them. And I have put them on backwards, trust me, they don't cut. So it's not like just because it has power, it'll blow through just because it's not sharp. Trust me, you want it sharp. So, best way, put this back on, in my opinion. Get your blade started in the end. Let me stand it. I would normally stand this straight up, which I will now that I got it started. Get it started on your sprocket on the front of your bar. Get it tucked in here. And it doesn't matter the direction of the blade or the bar, which way it's on. It can be upside down or right side up. It doesn't matter. There's both holes here and they oil the same for that dial. So that dial would go there or here if it's the other way. So I paused it here. You can see the information on the bar behind where it says Milwaukee. This is a picture of it. The top one is your part number for replacement bar if you need it. You have a 10-inch in length bar. Next one down, 0.043. That's the gauge of the chain that you need. The next one down, 90, I'm not sure about. Dash 40. 40 is the drive links that you have. This is a 3/8 pitch bar. All this info you'll need to know in order to replace it. If you realize, oh, I'm putting it on upside down, just go like that. Flip it over. You don't have to pull the chain off and re-flip it over. So, best way to put this back on. Get that on the bar, get it in the sprocket. These little teeth here you want in the openings. That's what actually grabs. Reach forward, and then you'll go back with once it's in the sprocket there, it doesn't normally come off. You actually kind of have to pull it off the dial. Once it's on the dial there, you're good. Go ahead and put our cover back on here. Oh, cover backwards. All right, now it covers back on. Put our nut back on there, just enough to hold it. You can actually, finger tight's normally enough. Now, shows you the direction. Once again, you can double check it after the fact. Be like, oh, I don't remember, did I remember to put it on right? Same thing, here, matches what looks like here. Big side, small side, direction heading that way. Big side, small side. There's actually an arrow on the link as well on the chain pointing that way. So that helps as well. So I've got that tightened down. It moves a little bit. I'm just gonna give us a little bit of just a little something to hold a little bit better. You can see all the slop in the chain. Right here, plus or minus for your chain tightness, right here. So minus, plus. You're gonna twist this way for plus, this way for minus. You can never remember. I think plus means it gives you positive tension, yeah. So you can see the chain. Let me move this back here a little bit in case you can't see it. You can see the chain, how loose it is. It's gonna be a little tough here. But as you twist on that, see that chain starting to pull? Make sure these go in the bar. So if they end up catching on the top, most of the time as you're tightening it, it'll pull in. But just make sure they guide them in if you need to. Sometimes they don't. See, I got one right there. Just a little bit. There we go. Basically what I did is went until it stopped. I always give it a little Now we'll tighten that up, then double check it. I think it's still a little loose there. I'm gonna go ahead, loosen it back up just a little bit. I'm gonna give it just a little more. Not much, doesn't need much. Don't take much once it gets tight. See, I can just barely see the hole whenever I give it a little pull. What you're doing is when you go through a tree, you're actually gonna be pushing in on the bottom side here, and you're gonna be pulling up here. So you gotta think about it. If this thing's pulling against it, look how much slack that is. So I still don't know if that's enough. So let's give it a little more. As soon as I pulled on it, it seemed like it pulled a little loose. So let's give it a little more. About a quarter turn. Tighten it back up. And this is what I'm talking about. Chains can be a little finicky. You want to make sure you get them the right tightness. You don't want them too tight. You don't want them too loose. So let's give it a little more. Tighten this back up. And every time you tighten down this nut here too, it kind of loosens back up because it straightens it takes the bar from being turned down and pulls it up. So that's better. See, now I can pull on it pretty hard and I still can't get a tooth out. That's the idea behind a good one. You always want to get a good roll on it. Make sure you grab between those blades right on a link. Just be careful. You can cut yourself for sure. They are razors. So that's all good. Pretty happy. I like that. It'll stretch back out a little bit. But yeah, that's the pole saw. I would definitely call this a recommendation for sure. You got a battery powered Milwaukee trimmer head for weed eating, weed whacking, whatever you want to call it. I definitely recommend this, and I recommend you're gonna buy this and just to try it out like I did. And the only thing you're gonna be wishing for is that 3-foot extension. So I'll make sure I put a link down there in the description for the weed eater head pole saw attachment combo kit. Just the attachment itself in case you already have that trimmer. I'll put it in as just a tool only as well, because you can buy this without the battery and charger. If you do get it with the whole kit, the weed whacker motor side that comes with it, battery X, I think it's an 8.0 high output, and you will get a charger. You can buy just this as a tool. You can buy this with the weed whacker head as a tool, I do believe, just the tool only, no battery or charger in case you're already in the Milwaukee system. My case, I definitely recommend getting another battery and just dedicating it directly to this and hanging it on the wall over there like you seen in my last video I have. So definitely highly recommend it. And I will also put a part number in and link for the 3-foot extension as well. This thing's fantastic enough that 3-foot extension, it'll definitely be great. So other than that, I don't see any issues with it. Highly recommend it. And that's it. Greatly appreciate it. Please stay tuned. More videos to come. Have a good one.